Hello, welcome to this new video. On another video I was telling you about generative listening. In other words, how do I listen deeply to what somebody else is saying. Here I'm going to talk to you about generative speaking. In other words, how do I respond once I've heard what the other one is conveying, what he or she is trying to say. As you can see here, I'd like to offer you a tool with 4 quadrants, and each of these quadrants represent a space from which you can speak. In other words, a space from which you will be able to speak generatively, to contribute to the conversation in a way that both invites the other one to continue to express himself or herself, and in a way in which you will feel able to bring to the table, to bring to the conversation your own perspective, what you want to contribute, without feeling that you need to watch what you're saying, you need to censor some of your opinions, you need to walk on eggshells, etc. No, with generative speaking and with these 4 quadrants, you will be able to express and bring to the table what you hold deep in your heart and in your mind in a way that encourages the other one, the other person in the conversation, to continue this generative conversation. Okay, so if we look at the matrix, we've got 2 quadrants at the top. They're about what's present in what I've heard. If you look at the 2 quadrants at the bottom, there are places from which you can speak about what is not present in the conversation, in what you heard. Looking at the matrix on the left, the 2 quadrants on the left, they enrich the picture that's being developed through the conversation. If you look at the 2 quadrants on the right, they seem to be obscuring the picture. Okay, so let's zoom in a bit more now. We look at quadrant number 1. This is a space from which to speak about what I've learned, what I've heard, what I've learned, what is clearer for me after listening. This is an opportunity to affirm what the other one is saying, to give a feedback about what I've understood, just to check that indeed I did understand correctly what the other one is saying, but also it's a way of making sure the other one can feel truly listened to. And that's very important in a conversation. If I'm going to speak, it's important that I feel that the other one is hearing me, that is listening to me. Therefore, speaking from quadrant number 1, from the first quadrant, will secure this feeling in the other person. Now, there may be things that you have not understood, and it's very important to name them. It's very important to do that, because otherwise you might build on the conversation, you might build on a sand castle, as we might say. In other words, you might think that you've understood and move the conversation to a decision that is based on wrong data. Okay, so very important to check that you've understood. Paradoxically, it might be easier to do that if you're speaking with people from different countries and you're both trying to speak a language that's not your language. So then you know you have to pay attention, make sure you've understood. Now, if you're speaking your own language with somebody who shares your language, the risk is that you both assume that the words you're using have the same meaning. Of course, I might use a word with a particular meaning, the other one understands it with another meaning. It's very important to check the meaning. Moving on to quadrant number 3, this is where you can share what the conversation triggers in you. You'll see there are links to some of the generative listening principles, in particular, for example, number 7. But here, this is a place from which you can respond and share what ideas were triggered by what you heard. And it's very important to name them, because Sometimes, as I'm listening to somebody else and an idea comes to my mind, I might assume actually it's the other one's idea, because I'm hearing it as he or she's speaking. But actually, it's not in what they're saying. It's happening in my mind as I'm listening. So it's my own idea, really. Or it comes from somewhere else, but it doesn't come from the person who's speaking. In that way, it's very important to name it. Because otherwise I might assume that the other person agrees with that idea, because I'm assuming it's theirs, when in fact it's not. Okay, so very important to name this. Very important also to name the feelings, the fears, the desires, also maybe the resistances that are triggered in me when I listen to what somebody else is saying. It helps clarify the climate, clarify the field in which the conversation is happening. And if we clarify the field, we can be clearer about what can grow in that field. Now, if we move to quadrant number 4, you'll see that this is the space from which I can speak about what I feel is crucial for me. A theme, an issue, a topic that's crucial, but I'm not hearing you talk about it. So I'm a bit ill at ease. For me, we're having this conversation, something's crucial, you're not mentioning it. It holds me back from truly engaging with you. Another way of saying it might be what I am struggling to reconcile when I'm hearing you. I'll give you an example. Somebody's coming to present you a project they want to launch. Okay, so they describe the project to you. You understand and learn quite a few things. Quadrant number 1, you will check some of the things you haven't understood. Quadrant number 2, you might share also some ideas and thoughts, feelings also that come up. Yeah, it's a great idea, I like it, I think it has a lot of potential, makes me think about this as well that we could do, etc. However, I'm not hearing you mention anything about finance. How are we going to finance this project? Now, if you say that to somebody, you open up the opportunity for them to say, no, you're right, I haven't talked about finance, but I've thought it through, and this is what I think we can do. Okay, so then he or she will respond with the information that we're missing for you. They might say, I know you're right, actually, yeah, I was so busy thinking about this great idea, I forgot to think about how we might fund it. I'll come back to you in a couple of days, when I've thought this through. A third possibility, they might say to you, well, actually, I don't think finance is an issue. I think what's important is that we get the best project possible, and then we'll think about how we fund it. Now, if they say that to you, at least they're naming what's crucial, you've named what's crucial for you, and the conversation can move to, what's actually at the heart of what we're trying to do here. The risk, if you're not speaking from quadrant number 4, is that you'll end up saying to somebody, well, I don't like your idea. No, I don't think it can work. Oh, how did you come up with something like that? You might reject it because something in you is speaking about the fact that something crucial is missing. But you're not naming it, you're just responding too quickly. And by doing that, you create the possibilities, the very likelihood of conflict. The other person will try to defend the idea and say, no, it can work. And you say, well, no, there's no finance. And you'll get caught in a conflict. Whereas quadrant number 4 is a way for you to bring what you feel is crucial without offending, without pushing the other one into a position of conflict. Okay, so a tool, 4 positions from which you can speak. All you have to do now is to practice them. Enjoy.